Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDOWorkHereLady. I want to say thank you very much to everyone who subscribes to the channel and hits the like button. Our first story of the day. What additional piece of information is necessary? I had completely forgotten this encounter until this sub stirred it back into my memory. You kind of take for granted that customers at times are a different beast, but there had to be that first time. The first time you see it in the whites of their eyes, or maybe you don't see very much at all. In any case, this is my story. It goes back to the days of discount variety stores that seemed to be everywhere in the late 90s to the early 2000s. I worked at the flagship store of a newly popular chain that had a very particular uniform. Long navy trousers, bright blue polo shirt with large red and white lettered logo on the pocket, and two badges, one name badge and one very large Ask Me for Service badge. It was early afternoon, one weekend shift, and with nobody around to talk to, I actually decided to do a little bit of work. There was some shelf stocking left undone by the night shift workers, so I figured I'd clear those out so they had an easier time that night. The food and confectionery aisles were best because the products tended to be more uniformly sized, easier to price and stack, and there were fewer questions and much less damaged stock to worry about. So I set up camp in the part of the aisle with the most boxes, made a little fort, a stack to my left, a stack to my right. I had two box cutters, one in my pocket and one next to me on the stack I was working on. I figured I'd start from the bottom shelf and work up, and that if I was on the floor, then any customers who needed help would hopefully ask one of the other staff walking the floor. I was wrong. So here I am kneeling on the ground in the middle of a box fort of stock with price gun in hand. Accuracy be damned. It was all about speed with that thing, and anyone who's used one will know they're pretty loud. Cue ignorant lady. IL. Ahem. Damn it, my flow. At this stage, I don't know if the noise meant that she wanted to ask a question or if I was simply in her way, so I played both games at once. Without missing a beat, I kept pricing and kind of got on one knee and swiveled around out of my box fort so she had access to the shelf she maybe needed. At the same time, I started to look upward to see if she was trying to catch eye contact in case she wanted to ask a question. It was the second one. So I finished the box and put down the gun. I picked up the box cutter and slid it into my pocket away from sight. I stood up and adjusted my shirt, asked in my best retail voice, "How can I help you?" And then it happened. IL. Do you work here? I was absolutely floored. I admit I was young and hadn't worked for long enough to develop the retail snark that eventually came, but still, I literally had no words. It was kind of like the time my grandfather stole my nose for the first time. Eventually, I got it together, but there was that split second of deafening internal silence where you contemplate everything you had come to know. No words were coming, and though I didn't want to be rude, there was this need to let her know how stupid her question was that bordered on biological imperative. So we locked eyes, and I decided not to speak. I figure she's an adult female who's navigated life far enough to get to this point. She's going to work this out for herself. She waited. Was this a prank? This was not just some new type of stupid. This was an intensity I was not yet aware that humans were capable of reaching. Were Spinal Tap aware you could go past 11? It was happening right before my eyes. English had not rebooted yet, so I figured I'd guide her to some environmental cues that maybe she'd missed. I cocked an eyebrow, looked directly at my badge, then back to her. Nothing. I looked down at my boxes, my price gun, the fort. At this stage, I was starting to wonder myself, do I work here? We locked eyes again. Still nothing. I'm sure this is the hazy cloud of time. My legendary story to match the old-time sailors. I caught a 300-foot bass. But in my mind, this stalemate went on for hours. No movement. Who draws first? There was no break in sight. Importantly, not even a hint of embarrassment in her eyes. No damaged pride she was guarding by remaining silent. She genuinely seemed to be oblivious. She was actually awaiting an answer. At this point, I started to wonder what I needed to provide. Sure, I could just answer the question, but where would that lead us? What follows that? With all the information I've provided, what is this critical piece of the puzzle that's missing that will allow her to understand? I'm in my uniform, on the ground, pricing and stacking stock. When I stood up, those oversized badges jiggled. There was no way to miss them, short of showing her the title deed to the property. I didn't know what else I could provide that would give her the closure she needed. So with that, I just laid my cards out on the table. Yes. The dim light in her eyes turned to a spark like I'd just reconnected the grid. She bounced straight into the "where is XYZ" question that, honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember if I told her where to go and trusted she'd make it or if I guided her there. I don't remember what I did after. For all I know, I was crying at this point. And so it was. I had many more years of retail and hospitality ahead of me that would call into question more about the nature of humanity and how we got here, but this was the one I never forgot. My 300-foot bass. Maybe I never really worked there. I am the supervisor, and the answer is still no. I work in an office environment where I have to process paperwork for clients. For the most part, the people we have to deal with are fine, but every now and then we end up having to deal with people who are pissed off. Usually it's because of something they did themselves, and they're pissed off because we can't fix it for them. I'm a supervisor in my office. There are a couple of people above me, but on the day this story took place, I was the only one on staff to look after the office. One of my coworkers, we'll call her Jay, was working at our front door, essentially doing what we call cider triage, where they look at people's paperwork to make sure everything's right. Jay had already looked at this guy's paperwork. We'll call him G, and of course, I will be me. A bit of background information. I'm the youngest employee in my office. I also have a tendency to dress relatively comfortable. Everyone in my office does for the most part. I usually tend to wear a lot of plaid, comic book t-shirts, and jeans. I'll admit, my appearance doesn't necessarily scream, I'm in charge. Anyways, I get a call over one of the radios from Jay at the front door saying she had sent a customer my way who was giving her a hard time. She gave me a brief explanation of what was wrong. Essentially, his paperwork was all completely wrong. He had no ID, and he wanted us to process everything anyway, which wasn't going to happen until he got the documents and paperwork fixed. The guy got to the counter I was stationed at and started looking around like he was looking for someone else. And that's where it started. Me. Hello, how can I help you? G. I'm looking for a supervisor. Me. I know. What can I do for you? G rolls his eyes and huffs before slamming his paperwork down. I showed this crap to the B at the door and she said we can't do it. Me. Okay, I'm going to have to ask that you watch your language. As you can see, there are children around over there. Let me take a look at what you have there. G. I don't give a F about those kids. I already showed the C up there. I want to see a supervisor. Me. Sir, I can't help you if you don't allow me to look at your documents so I can get an idea of what the issue is. G. Throws his papers at me. Fine, whatever. At this point, I discreetly signal for our security guard to come close to keep an eye on things. Me, looking through the papers. Okay, sir, I can see what the issue is. The names and dates don't match from one document to the other. G. So? Me. Well, sir, if the information doesn't match, we can't process. The information needs to be consistent. If you'd like, I could explain what needs to be done to correct it. G. I don't want to correct it. The papers are fine. It just needs to be processed. Me. I'm sorry, sir, but this paperwork is not acceptable as it is. You're going to need to get it fixed before we can process. I can write it all down for you, but I'm afraid we can't process this right now. G. Huffing again. Listen, I came over here to talk to a supervisor so I can get this crap processed now. I'm not fixing it, and I'm not leaving until it gets done. At this point, the security guard is standing behind him. Me. Well, unfortunately, we won't be able to process this paperwork as it is. If you'd like, I could call ahead to the company you've had to contact to have it fixed and tell them what needs to be done so they can have it ready when you get there so you can have this processed as soon as possible. G. F you and F the effing C at the door. Get me the effing supervisor now or I'm done with this S. Security guard. Sir, please watch your language. G. F you too. Supervisor, now. This S is getting done right now. Me. Sir, I am the supervisor. That's why you were sent to me. G. F you. I want to see someone else. Me. Unfortunately, I'm the only supervisor on staff for the rest of the week, and as I've said before, the paperwork will not be processed the way it is. This is what needs to be done to fix it. I wrote it down for him. G. Get effed. Yanking the paperwork away. I'm going to go. It's the name of another office. They'll do it there. The guy stormed out yelling and swearing with our security guard following behind. I called ahead to the other office since they're a part of our office, just another location. I warned them about the guy and later got a nice email from the manager there saying that the guy showed up there and flipped out because they wouldn't do it either. They ended up calling the police on him. I am an adult lady. I'm a young high school teacher, and this is my first teaching job. I've had security guards making bets over my age, 16 or 30. I'm 23. So that's why I wear my badge every day. I've had a few of these. I'm outside with my class teaching and looking at trees, and some random lady comes up to us. We're in the middle of campus, and I'm not sure she's supposed to be there. Lady: excuse me. Me: oh, hey, can I help you with something? My students are looking at me like, WTF. Lady: how do I get to the main entrance? Me: oh, sure, it's actually on the other side of the building. If you walk around the building down that path, it'll be right there. Lady: no, I'm looking for the main entrance where security is. Me: okay, yeah. You go down that hill and it'll be right there, or if you don't want to walk, you can go out to the street and take blank blank road. I am looking for the main entrance. Where do I find it? I'm meeting my boss for an important meeting. This is where one of my students pipes in. It's around that corner. At this point, she looks me up and down, notices my badge, and says, oh, right, yes, thank you, and she storms off. Mind you, I'm in the middle of first period with 9 students. I'm not allowed to let an unauthorized person into the building. Oh yeah, she had the Karen haircut. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.